Hey, what's up guys, Patrick, and this is my Queen Black Dragon guide. Before you even attempt anything, I recommend having at least 85 herb lore, 70 prayer, 80 attack, 80 strength, and 80 defense. You need 85 herb lore for super anti-fires, and it's not worth doing if you don't have them. For your prayers, if you're under 92 prayer, use the regular prayer book. If you're above 92 prayer, use curses. You'll also need 60 summoning to enter the QBD layer, but other than that, summoning levels aren't really necessary. I don't even use a familiar myself personally, and I'll explain that in a minute. Let's move on to gear. I'm wearing Bandals and Dual Chaotix. For armor, you definitely want to use Bandals or better. It's generally better to use offensive gear rather than defensive gear, meaning Bandals, Torva, or Mavlint, because when it comes to reducing damage taken at QBD, the gear actually doesn't help that much. Because the things that deal the bulk of the damage, your defense literally has no effect on it. Trying to reduce or avoid damage at QBD is more dependent on your knowledge of it after you watch this video, of course. As for the weapon, use anything level 80 or higher. I'm using dual chaotic longswords, but if you want, you could use a maul or rapiers or drygores. All those are pretty good. One other item I want to point out is the Ring of Vigor. It's a dungeoneering reward that costs 50k tokens. This ring will save you 10% adrenaline when you use an ultimate ability, which doesn't sound that great, but trust me, it is. In my inventory, I have a super anti-fire, prayer renewal, overload, adrenaline potion, 2 super restore flasks, a captain's log, and I fill the rest of it up with food. If you're going to bring a familiar, fill that up with food too. The amount of potions you bring is dependent on how long you plan to stay. Each dose is 5 minutes. If you don't have overloads, that's fine. Just bring a super set or extreme set if you can make those. The reason why I bring so little resources also ties in with what I said earlier about not bringing a familiar and the captain's log I have in my inventory. Simply because it's just really easy to bank and I don't think it's necessary to bring that much. I use my captain's log to teleport to player-owned ports. I use the bank there, use the captain's log to teleport again, walk for like 10 seconds, and I'm at the entrance to the cave already. Keep in mind this only works if you have a bank in your player-owned ports. You get this by upgrading your workshop, I think. If you don't have one, lodestones are your best bet. The thing I hate about bringing a familiar is that every once in a while I still die. It doesn't matter how experienced you are. Sometimes QBD just combos you like crazy. You can easily get hit for like 6,000, 7,000 HP at once. And then you end up losing a familiar filled with food. So that then becomes a huge waste of money real quick, especially if you let it like accumulate. Anyways, when you first enter, QBD is going to do his animation where it was sleeping, and then when you enter, it wakes up. You won't be able to attack it, so you want to pot while it's doing that. Also, turn on your prayers. If you're using the regular prayer book, use Protect from Range and Piety. If you're using curses, use Soul Split and Turmoil. If you don't have Turmoil, it's not a big deal, but if you don't have Soul Split, I told you earlier that you're supposed to use the regular prayer book. When you finally do get to attack it, this will be the start of the first of 4 phases. At top, you see those 4 things. That's the indication of what phase you're on. Right under that is the health bar, and the health bar is only for that specific phase. After the phase is over, the health bar goes all the way back up, and you have to repeat that until you do it a total of 4 times. Let's talk strictly about phase 1. So QBD can do many things throughout the fight depending on what phase it's on. The only thing you should take note of for phase 1 is the firewall. When it's about to do a firewall attack, you'll see a message in your chat box saying the Queen Black Dragon takes a huge breath. You have 3 options. You can choose to stand there and keep attacking, but you'll take 2 750 hits. You can choose to quickly back up and run through the wall, but you'll take 1 750 hit. The third option, the wall always has 1 hole in it. If you go through a hole, you take no damage, but this isn't really doable when you're meleeing because the hole can appear in 3 different spots and they're just too far apart sometimes, so it's generally best to go with option 2. I don't really focus on my chat box, so I personally stick to option 1, but when it comes to reducing damage, option 2 is still the best. As you can probably tell, whenever I try to run through it, it just turns out to be a huge fail. However, if you get good at it, definitely go with option 2. And something I do that helps and requires no effort is that I stand 1 square to the left of the middle at all times. This is one of the spots where the hole in the firewall can appear, so there's a 1 1/3 chance that I'll be able to avoid the damage. When phase 1 is over, hit the pillar in the middle as fast as you can or else you'll start spawning grout worms. I want to make one more note about the firewall though. A lot of times when a phase is over, QBD will do the firewall attack, and what ends up happening depends on a split-second difference. If she manages to get out of firewall before the pillar lights up, I would suggest you wait for it to pass before you hit the pillar. In phase 2, she'll still do the firewall attack, except she'll now do it 2 at a time rather than just 1, so if you're going to do the whole backing up and running through thing, you're going to have to back up a lot further. She'll also spawn Tortured Souls. Tortured Souls can do his attack to hit you for 1k, and it's like this thing that runs through the floor. If you can click fast enough and run through the Tortured Soul, you can use the attack to make them hit themselves, but it's not the easiest thing to do if you're meleeing, because they're probably going to be right next to you and it'll hit you in a split second. So I don't really bother most of the time. It's actually a lot easier to do in the later phases when there are more of them and they're more spread out. QBD sometimes will kill the Tortured Souls herself, but she heals from doing that. There's nothing you can do about that, just keep attacking. Generally, you do want to kill them, but it's not something you want to go out of your way to do. This is a situation where an ability like Flurry really helps, being that it hits everything around you. When phase 2 is over, hit the pillar on the left side in the very back as fast as you can, or else you'll start spawning grout worms again. In phase 3, she'll do 3 firewalls at a time and spawn 2 Tortured Souls at a time. When they do that thing that hits you for 1k, they always do it at the exact same time, so whenever that happens, you're guaranteed to get hit for 2k unless you maneuver it to make it hit them instead. Starting at phase 3, QBD can also change skin. She'll either turn blue or purple and green. If she turns blue, your range and melee attacks will hit harder. If she turns purple and green, your magic attacks will hit harder. This does not mean you need a magic weapon. I just mentioned it because it is something you should take note of. A magic weapon hardly makes a difference. When she turns blue, you can end the phase pretty fast with basics, so you can save your thresholds for the last phase. When phase 3 is over, hit the pillar on the right side in the very back as fast as you can, or else you'll start spawning grout worms again. In phase 4, she'll stick to 3 firewalls at a time, and she'll spawn 4 Tortured Souls. Keep in mind the 1k hit that they all do at the same time. The Tortured Souls also get a new ability this phase. One will randomly teleport into the corner and start chanting some stuff. If you let it stay there long enough, it'll freeze time. QBD can still attack you, but you can't attack it. This is dangerous, so you might want to kill a Tortured Soul, but you don't have to. If QBD is really close to dying and you're confident in your ability to finish it off, even if the soul manages to freeze time right as you get the last hit in, you'll be fine. QBD will be too busy spawning grout worms, which aren't really a threat at that point. The second thing you need to take note of for the 4th phase is the Extreme Fire Breath, which is this really big multicolor fire breath. In the chat box, it'll say the Queen Black Dragon gathers her strength to breathe extremely hot flames. If you stand in front of it, you'll get hit for 1950 3 times. If you move far enough to the side, you will only get hit for 450. As you could tell, the 4th phase is really annoying, and ideally you want to get through it as fast as possible, so I actually have a strategy for it. You want to try and end the 3rd phase with 100% adrenaline. That's not always possible, but it's okay. Get 100% immediately. When you enter the 4th phase, use the Berserk ultimate ability. If you have a Ring of Vigor, you save 10% adrenaline. Drink an adrenaline pot, which will bring you up to 35%. Use 2 basics, which will bring you up to 51, and then use the Assault Threshold ability. It generally dies after that, or at least it comes pretty close to it. When the 4th phase is over, hit the last pillar, everything dies, the floor opens up, go down into the treasure room, and get your rewards. So that's it for this video, guys. If you want me to make any more guides, feel free to post suggestions in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, favorite, and subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.